Okay, we are installing SIMs, DIMMs, and RIMs in motherboards. This motherboard uses SIMs. To remove a SIM out of a motherboard, open the latches. The SIM will fall backward in the slot. Pick it up and out. Do the same thing. Lift the latch, pick it up and out. Removing from back forward, but installing from front backward. So put the SIM into the slot all the way in and then push forward until the latches on both sides click into position. You can feel it slide and sink into the slot solidly. Put the second one in place. Check the latches to make sure they're in place. A DIMM is easier. Just remove the latches on both sides and lift the DIMM up and out of the slot. In fact, as you push the latches forward, the DIMM pops up. Pop it up. To put it back in the slot, position it in the slot, push down until the latches themselves pop themselves into place like this on both sides. Being careful not to rock the DIMM. A RIM. RIMs are installed. Something has to be in every slot. If it's not a RIM, it has to be a CRIM or continuous RIM. Lay the continuous RIMs aside. To remove a RIM, open the latch. The RIM pops up. You can take it out. To install it back in, position it into the slot, push down until the latches lock into place on both sides. Install the CRIMs in the same way. Push down until they lock into side. And as you're installing memory, be very careful to protect the modules against ESD by using an ESD bracelet or some other method. And don't touch the chips themselves if at all possible. And that's installing SIMs, DIMMs, and RIMs.
What we're looking at here is frequently called the blue screen of death. Basically, if you get this screen when you're using Windows, whether it's booting up, shutting down, or in the middle of running an operation, many times it means that your memory could be bad. Now, it could be other things. It could be your Windows load is bad. It could be your hard drive is going bad. But this is one of those indications that we get that we say, hey, you know what? I need to test the memory and the hard drive on this. And frequently for this kind of error, when we get the blue screen of death, basically saying Windows tried to do something and now I can't do it and I shut down. When we get this, we want to test those things, and one of the things we're going to test is memory. So this is an error indication from a system that does kind of run that we might have a memory problem. So this is one of our things, and it's called the blue screen of death. If you haven't heard it before, it's a Windows term, or it's a term used for a Windows failure and shutdown. And you can see at the bottom it says contact your system administrator or technical support for further assistance. Basically that's us, and then we check the memory and see if it's bad. So that's one indication of bad memory.
Okay, the first thing we're looking for when we come up to a PC, obviously, is that we can turn it on and get a good boot. When I turn on a PC, the first thing it does is it runs some basic diagnostics, that power on self-test that tests the CPU, the motherboard, and the memory to make sure it can boot. If it has incompatible memory or bad memory that it can't even boot to, or incompatible maybe like you've put in ECC RAM as opposed to non-ECC RAM, you've got the wrong kind of speed, whatever, this is what indication you'll get. A PC that doesn't have the right kind of RAM in it, or where a motherboard can't boot because of the RAM, will usually give you some kind of a beep sequence. Now these sequences are different for different motherboards, but the process is really the same. The computer beeps at you. And if it beeps at you, and sometimes it's not continuous, this particular Dell Optiplex won't stop beeping ever until you turn it off. Some of them just give you 4 beeps that sound very similar, straight off the speaker on the motherboard, which doesn't have a lot of different sounds it can make. All it can do really is usually beep at you. And if you looked up the motherboard, you'd be able to find out what beep sequence that motherboard makes for different kind of problems. But usually, this sound means I've got the wrong kind of memory or no memory in this PC. So if you ever come up to one that's beeping like that, the first thing I would do is open it up, look and see what kind of memory is inside it, if there is some, and try either removing one stick at a time or trying different sticks in that. And if that goes away and it comes up, you know you've got some kind of an incompatible memory problem in that PC.
Okay, I said there were different kind of beep codes. I just Googled motherboard beep codes, and I came up with this, ignoring the name of the web page, nice website that goes into the different motherboards and what the beep codes mean. For instance, with this AMI BIOS, 2 short beeps means your motherboard has memory problems. And it goes through what those are. So if you were to just Google motherboard beep codes, and if you know what kind of BIOS it has, because the BIOS determines what it does, or rather what that power on self-test is, and therefore what the beep codes mean, then you'd immediately be able to look and see what the beep codes go to. For instance, on this Phoenix BIOS, you get 3 audio codes, and then it follows by this. So if this BIOS emits 3 sets of beeps, for example, 1, pause 3, it would mean 1, pause 3, you need to replace the motherboard. If the memory was bad in this one, it would be 1, pause 4, pause 2, that you have some sort of a memory problem. So just so you know, it's relatively easy to find those codes, and unfortunately my family's yelling in the background, and determine what those codes mean just by doing a Google on motherboard beep code.
Okay, this is on testing your memory. We've got 2 different CDs I'm showing you right here. One of them says Windows Memory Diagnostic only on it, meaning that the only thing that CD is for is to test memory. And it's the easiest and simplest way to test for us. That is a file that you can download straight from Windows and either create a floppy disk or a CD right off of that file. The one on the right here is the Ultimate Boot CD. It's called the Ultimate Boot CD by the people who put it together, and it contains a large number of testing utilities and programs all put together on one CD, and it also has the Windows Memory Diagnostic as part of it. It's just one thing that runs out of probably 100. So either one of those you can use to test the memory. Right now we're just going to do it the easy way, and that's with the Windows Memory Diagnostic. So let me take this down and get out of the way. I'm going to start this PC up and go ahead and put in the Windows Memory Diagnostic CD, and I've got it set to boot directly to Windows. One of the things that we're going to do first, though, is we're going to go into, it said hit F2 to enter setup, so I've done that. We're going to enter the BIOS and see what memory it thinks it has, because sometimes that's our problem. And so I'm going to arrow down to where it says memory information, and I'm going to hit enter, and it says I've got 256 megabytes of SD-RAM installed, and the speed of that memory is 100 megahertz RAM. So we know that's the original kind of SD-RAM, which ran at speeds of 66, 100, and 133 megahertz. So that's what it's got inside it, which is confirmed by what I saw on the inside. So I'm going to go ahead and let this program start. Now, I have to do nothing in this program. It just automatically starts up when it's running. And basically what I see when I'm running the Windows Memory Diagnostic, it says that's what it is. This is the Windows Memory Diagnostic. It's currently on pass 1, test 2 of 6 tests that this is doing, which means that it's going to run through all 6 tests, and then it's going to go pass 2, run through all 6 tests. This program will go on and run forever until we pause it with a P, exit it with an X, or we can switch to extended tests that actually have more tests. Now, in general, the basic test that's running right now is fine. As long as we're seeing green here, it succeeded, then the tests are passing. As soon as we see it turn red and say failed on any of the tests that it's doing, then we know that we've got a bad stick of memory in this PC. These are both, I think, good sticks of RAM that I'm testing in here, so we're not going to see a failed test. But there's 2 sticks of RAM in here. If it fails, it doesn't tell us which one failed. It just tells us that the memory test has failed. So in that case, once it's gone through the entire first pass, and we can see now it's on test 4 of 6, still on pass 1. As soon as it's gone through all the tests and succeeded or failed, I know the memory is either good or bad. Now, if it's bad, my only way to find out is to open up this PC, take out one of the 2 sticks, and run it again. If it passes, then I know the one I took out is the one that's bad. And if it fails, I know that the one that's in is bad. That doesn't mean it's the only one that's bad. So I would have to go and put the other one back in and test it separately as well. And you may ask, why don't we just test them separately in the first place? Because 95% of the time, memory is good. So we might as well just run it, test it with it together, make sure it's good when we're going through systems and testing them, and then move on. So that's the Windows Memory Diagnostic, and I'm going to let it finish because it's almost done. You can see it's on test 5. And it's passing all the tests that it's doing right now. We can only see 4 tests at a time, so the first test starts scrolling off the screen as we get to the next one because, like I said, it only shows 4 at one time. So as long as I keep seeing green, I'm good. As soon as I see red, I know something is bad, and that's a Windows Memory Diagnostic. If you switch to the extended test, if we think something's wrong with it, it's acting funny, it passed the basic test. If I hit T, now it's doing 11 different tests, but you can see I started all over again. So I'm all the way back to the first test again, which is the MATS test, and it's going to go through here until it gets done with the whole thing. I'm not going to make us wait and watch this, but that's how it goes, and then I'm going to show you how the Ultimate Boot CD works next. Okay, this time we're booting up to the Ultimate Boot CD on the same PC. When the Ultimate Boot CD comes up, it says the word boot up here in the top right hand corner, basically asking you, do you want to boot to this CD? Press enter to boot. So I hit press enter, and now it's in the Ultimate Boot CD, and this is version 4.1.1. You can see up there. And if you wanted to get it, you just go to www.ultimatebootcd.com if you wanted to download the most current version. Now, there's a whole bunch of different tools on there. It's a great CD, and it's the only one I used to have made for everybody, but the other one's so easy that sometimes it's better to use that one. So anyway, to use the Ultimate Boot CD, I need to know what I'm testing. Am I testing something on the main board? Usually it's these top 2 choices, by the way. Main board or hard disk. Well, between the 2, the memory's on the main board, so I hit enter. And now I've got other tests. So I want to do a CPU test, a memory test, peripherals, tools. Basically, you can see it there. So it's going to go down, and we're going to say, hey, I want to do a memory test. And I hit enter. Now I've got 5 different memory tests I can run, but I'm going to do the Windows Memory Diagnostic because it's the easiest and most direct memory test for us. So I'm going to go down that, hit enter, and now it's going to go right back to the same place it was if I had just used this CD, which is the Windows Memory Diagnostic CD that I ran the other time. Exactly the same tests. You should get exactly the same results. It's going to go through exactly the same way, but if you're going out to work on a PC, generally, we just take an Ultimate Boot CD with us because when we go test, we test both the memory and the hard drive to make sure to eliminate those items as bad items. So those are both ways that you can go and test the memory. I need to make sure you guys know how to use the Ultimate Boot CD, which basically you just go through a couple memory items to get to the same thing you did from this Windows Memory Diagnostic CD that I just took you through. So that's testing memory. Very easy. And very simple, and like I said, this where it says succeeded here will be red and say failed if there is any bad stick of memory currently in this PC.
Okay. If we find out that our memory is bad or we need to increase the capacity of the system that we own, we need to be able to find and purchase the right kind of memory. We're going to take a look at the video from the textbook on purchasing memory, as well as making sure we can find the memory for a specific motherboard if we either find out what kind of motherboard it is from opening up our case, from running the application scanner that we used last time that I have linked to on the website, or if we're going to buy a system and build a system, how do we find out what kind of memory we're going to use, and specifically how expensive that memory is. So we're going to do a practical application after watching the video from the textbook.
We are upgrading memory in a computer, and the third step is to find out how much the memory is going to cost and to order it off the internet. We are looking for DDR, dual channel, 400 megahertz, CAS latency 3 RAM that we read off the memory module itself. I've gone to the Tiger Direct site to do our search. We'll click on memory. When I do that, after a little bit of search, we find this memory modules here. They're $84.99 each. Verify that the right specs. They're 256 megabytes each. 400 megahertz, or PC 3200 is the frequency rating. CAS latency is 333, in other words CL3. It's dual channel DDR 184 pin, and that's all correct. So we order the modules and insert them in the computer, and our upgrade is complete.
Okay, we've already gone through and used the Memory 10 scanner, which is one option of trying to find the memory that goes with your motherboard. As I said, I would use this in IE, don't use it in Firefox. But if you have a system that isn't working, that you're trying to build onto, that you can't run it, the scanner itself, you need to also be able to find what kind of memory to purchase in other ways. Right now I've got pulled up the motherboard for, there we go, the motherboard for Leslie Cooper's presentation on her business PC, and it brought me straight to here where she had the buy link to. And if I go down here to the memory that's available for this motherboard, I can look right on this site and find the kind of RAM that's available. Now it just says DDR2 SDRAM down here, and it isn't very specific on the specific kind of RAM that we can look at. So you could instead go, and I've already Googled it, I just put in this the code for the motherboard, which is this right here into Google, and went straight to the Gigabyte site. And here at Gigabyte site, I can see that it has 2 DDR2 DIMM sockets supporting up to 8 gig of memory, and the kind that it does is DDR2 667, which is the slowest, 800, which is the normal fastest, but it will support up to 1066 of overclocked RAM. Normally when I'm looking at the fastest, this is the number I'm looking at, but you can also do the overclocking if you want to when you're doing your presentation. I just caution you that in overclocking RAM, you need to always make sure you've got the current BIOS loaded on your PC, because sometimes overclocking won't work if you don't. Okay, so we've identified, I'm going to look for DDR2 800 megahertz RAM. As I look for this, I could go to a site like Newegg and pull up the RAM from there. And a site like Newegg, I just go down here for the pop-up, say I want to go to memory, and then I can say that I want desktop RAM, and that I want go down here to more speeds, DDR2 800, which is also called PC2 6400, and from there I can go it from lowest price up, so I can see what it is here. And specifically, if I'm looking for a specific capacity, I can say, hey, I want a gig of RAM, and then I can see down here that I can buy a gig of RAM at only $19 for this PC. That's pretty amazing. So that's how you find the kind and prices for it. Now the other option, which we've talked about before, is to go to PriceWatch. and I can do the same thing. I go to PriceWatch under System Memory, and I look down under DDR2, and I want to look at DDR2 800, which is also called PC2 6400, and then find how much RAM that I'm looking for. If I was looking for 512, it says I can get it for $9.85. Wow, price of RAM has really come down. So I'm going to look at that's a SO-DIMM, which means it's for a laptop. It's not a regular DIMM. So as I look across here, let's see if this one, let's go to PC Progress and see if that actually exists. 512 memory, 800 megahertz PC 2400, DDR2, non-ECC. It's important whether you get the right one, and as I've said before, non-ECC is more standard. Wow, $10.49. It's pretty amazing for this one. So that's it. That's all it takes to find memory for your motherboard. Okay, with that being done, and if you didn't know, the journal was right there. If anybody can find it, find new laptop memory. That last thing we have to do before we move on to our PowerPoint project is you need to take the quiz over the second section of reading that we've all done the review for. It's right here, 3 quiz, chapter 5, pages 206 to 217. Everybody needs to take that quiz next, and we're going to pause for 10 minutes so everybody gets a chance to do that. The password for this is bubble.
Okay, I felt it was necessary to do a little review of the PowerPoint project since it's been 2 weeks since I originally assigned it. We haven't had a chance to work on it yet. So let's go over the whole PowerPoint project again. The assignment's right here under Memory PowerPoint Project, and I've laid out the guidelines for it pretty much. It's based on your original motherboards that you did on the first PowerPoint project. You have to decide which ones you're doing by going right here under the Choose Your Memory Here. Everybody has to click on Choose Your Memory Here and go and choose a motherboard. And as of yet, no one's gone on and chosen what motherboard they're doing. But here's the options. Fastest memory for your business motherboard, fastest memory for your gamer, fastest memory for your home, slowest, slowest, and slowest. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pick one student to take a look at theirs and use them as an example. Okay, let's say I'm Nick Alcorn, and here's my original PowerPoint presentation, and we'll just say that I chose the fastest for my business PC. So all I have to do if I was Nick was to go to his business PC through his original PowerPoint project, and then go to the specs on his motherboard, in which case I'm going to click on his link and see if it goes where it's supposed to go on Amazon.com. Here we've got an Intel Core 2 Quad LGA 775 Intel G31 motherboard. And unfortunately Amazon.com is not the best for specs usually, but we'll see how good their specs are because they're not a PC only site. But we'll see if they've got decent specs down here on the memory, and it looks like they do. Not really. Actually, maybe it says it up top. It's saying it's got 4 240 pin slots, and it takes 667 to 800 megahertz DIMMs with max supported of 4 gigabyte, which would mean to me that it takes 4 1 gigabyte pieces of memory, which is not true because I'm looking right here at my motherboard and it's only got 2 slots, so it looks like it takes 2 and it looks like it takes DDR2 800 memory. So if I was him, I would first go to the Intel site and make sure that that matches up. But now I can at least, hopefully, if this is relatively good info, I could go and say that what I'm really looking for, if I'm Nick Alcorn and I was looking for my fastest business PC, I'm looking for 800 megahertz DDR2 DIMMs. Now, that being said, this doesn't have any of the additional information I would need to know, whether it's error correcting, not error correcting, or parity, non-parity RAM. So it's kind of, like I said, Amazon, not a technology site, really, so usually theirs are fairly limited information, but if I went to the Intel site, which that didn't take me there, it might give me more information. In this case, I took Nick's item number, threw it in Google, and came up to the Newegg site. So it tells me a little bit more. It's got two 240 pin DDR2 800, takes up to 8 gigabytes, and it's dual channel memory. So I need to look at, if I'm trying to find the fastest one, obviously DDR2 memory for this motherboard for Nick. Now, that being said, I can go in, and if it doesn't say it's ECC, it's non-ECC. You can pretty much assume that all the time, that it's non-error correcting, non-parity, non-ECC memory, unless it says otherwise. And it doesn't say that on this one, because if it needs it, it's going to say it, and that's the non-standard. Error correcting is non-standard memory, not standard memory. So, like I said, because it makes it slower, more expensive, there are a number of things we could go into on that. But if I'm Nick, that's what I know that I've got to look at right now for my presentation. So going back here to our PowerPoint, I've got to go and find the memory that I'm going to buy, because the first thing I'm going to do is, in this case, you're representing a memory manufacturer. So you're going to introduce your company, Kingston, whatever memory manufacturer you find, and introduce this to your company just like you have for the motherboard and the CPUs. You're going to tell us about the memory you're going to give us. There's only one thing. It's going to be relatively easy for you to give us the information about the stick of RAM you're selling us. Now, in this case, Nick's going to find DDR2 800, but once he finds that DDR2 800, there may be a lot more information that he's going to be able to find about it to give us. For instance, let's say Nick was going to bring us, obviously we want to do 2 modules since we've got dual channel memory. He's going to sell us, if he's from Kingston, he's going to sell us this particular dual channel, and Nick, because I'm showing you this, you can't use this one. It's $53.99. It's 1 gigabyte, so it's 2 times 1 gigabyte. So we're going to 2 gigabyte modules. It's PC2 6400 or DDR2 800. It's got a cast latency of 5. It's non-ECC. It's a 2 volt. It's unbuffered. It comes with heat spreaders. And as I look back at the requirements for this presentation, I need to talk that access time, the bandwidth, the parity versus non-parity, whether it's ECC. You need to explain what that is and tell us whether it is or it isn't. Is it dual channel or single channel? What's the latency? And I could go to anything that I didn't see on Newegg on this. I guarantee you I could go to Kingston and find the rest of that information straight on the Kingston site if I needed to. Okay? Obviously we need a link to how much it costs, where we found it, so that you can show us that yes, these are factual numbers you've got for us, and as always, a works cited slide at the MLA. Okay, now note, home PC should get 512, business PC should get 1 gigabyte, gamer PC should get 4 gigabytes minimum. Okay, I'm going to add that on there, minimum. I'm not saying you have to give us more, but to go along with those PCs that we are building, it makes more sense for the home PC to get a 512 because we're trying to do the least expensive, the business PC to get 1 gigabyte because it's a mixture of speed and cost, but the gamer PCs have to get at least 4 gigabytes of RAM to go in that motherboard that goes with yours. Okay, we're going to do presentations the first day I come back from military leave. normal PowerPoint things apply. You should have custom animation, transitions. You should have a slide template they're using, not black text on white background. Okay? And I expect you to come down here and upload where you're at the end of each class as you're going through this. Now, you have to go here to choose the memory. You have to go here to, or you should go there to read the rubric as you're building the PowerPoint. Because this is what I'm going to use to grade you, so you should be making sure that you do these things. I have to talk about the motherboard again, about the specifications of the motherboard that I'm matching up with the PowerPoint. So there is a section on the motherboard, and then all those points on the memory, costs with a link, show us that you did your research, and obviously the PowerPoint elements that are standard for all of our presentations, that you did those things. This is readable. You did your citations correctly, and that I can read everything, and we have no misspellings in our PowerPoint. So please make sure you reference the rubric as well when you're going through there doing this. Okay, that's a review. You guys are going to have at least 1.5 days to work on that presentation, and then we'll give it as soon as I get back.